Okay, so as mentioned, we're going to start on the demand side of the market. So demand being what consumers are willing and able to pay for. And we're going to set it up as a relationship between these two variables. So one will be the price per unit, the other will be the quantity that is demanded at that price. So what this is called a demand schedule. So this is a set of data. I've taken this right from your textbook, so it is available in those pages in chapter 3. And so what this is saying is that whatever this good is, at a price of $9, 10 will be demanded. That's always, the unit here is always going to be dollars as long as we're talking about the Canadian economy. We'll talk about dollars. We'll talk about incrementing in monetary terms. And then this will be in thousands of pounds. Thousands of pounds. So at a price of $9 for whatever this commodity or whatever this good is, 10,000 pounds will be demanded. At a price of $8, notice that 15 will be demanded. And as the price goes down, look at the fact that in general, what we can say, and the positive statement we can make about that is that as the price goes up, the quantity demanded goes down. As the price goes down, the quantity demanded goes up. I mean, that makes intuitive sense to us because we know all of us manage budgets, regardless of our level of financial autonomy. We manage some budget. If I've got $10 in my pocket and a slice of pizza is $5, I can purchase 2, right? So this is what we notice in general, and we call that the law of demand. Law of demand. And what the law of demand is this inverse relationship between price and quantity. So as the price goes up, the quantity goes down. As the price goes down, the quantity goes up. And that just makes intuitive sense to us. And we can map this onto a couple of axes. If we put our price on the vertical axis, we put our quantity here, well then, at a price of $9, we're going to have 10 demanded. At a price of $8, you have 15. The price of $7, you have 20, and on, and you're going to form a curve that is going to look something like this. It's a downward sloping demand curve. That's what we call it. Because at a high price we demand less. At a lower price we demand more. So we have that slope. Now, we can explain this intuitively for ourselves, but economists say that the reason for this taking place, the reason why there is this relationship between price and quantity that we illustrate here, well, there are 2 reasons. One is substitution. Substitution, right? So as the price of this increases, I'm going to look for substitutes. The consumer is able to look for substitutes, so they're able to scale back on the quantity that they prefer of this thing because the price has gone up. So people will tend to substitute. If the price of coffee is too high, I might buy tea. If the price of tennis shoes goes up, I might buy a different type of shoe, or there are all kinds of ways in which we substitute one thing for another. If the price of beef goes up too much, I might eat more chicken, right? And so I'll demand less beef as the price goes up. The other one is the income effect. Right? So I should put the word effect here. Right? So two reasons for a downward sloping demand curve. One being that we can substitute, the other being the income effect. So as the price of beef goes up, it starts to represent a larger proportion of the income that I have. If my income remains fixed, if all other things, remember, when we deal with economic models, we're very often saying, if everything else remains equal, these variables will have this relationship. So if everything else, including my income, stays the same, then when the price of beef goes up, it's going to represent a larger proportion of my income, so I'm going to start to feel poorer. So therefore, in order to restore myself, I may substitute something else. So because of these two effects, we find this relationship. We're basically explaining it backwards, right? We're basically looking at something that takes place, and we're explaining the human behavior by using these two items. But it does make sense to us. So that is the basic law of demand. So whenever you see a problem that indicates that the price has moved, the price moving just by itself, when the price moves, we will move along this demand curve, right? So from $8, at $8 we will have 15 demanded. At $7 we will have 20 demanded, right? This is not drawn to scale, but you see, when the price goes down, the quantity demanded moves. So it moves along the curve. So we call that a change in quantity demanded. Right? So price causes a change in quantity demanded. That's the whole reason for drawing this, or for having this demand schedule, the demand curve, is so that we can illustrate that relationship that we notice because of these two effects. So that's going to be called a change in the quantity demanded. Now, if we want to switch gears and we want to talk about a change in demand, like why is this curve here as opposed to over here? Or why is it here as opposed to over here? That's something that we're going to, we're assuming in here that everything else remains equal. But what if other things change? And that's what our next video is going to talk about, which is going to be a change in demand. Here, price causes change in quantity demanded, just movement along the curve or along the x-axis. There are other things that are going to be able to change where the curve is located, and we're going to talk about those in the next video.